what you make. You gotta put in hard work. Yeah, can't let nobody hold you down, baby. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Hoop Academy Project. I'm Derek Limas, and sitting in here with me today that is Melvin Miller, who's a longtime resident of the city of Alexandria. Next to him is Coach Ivan Thomas, who's the boys basketball coach, He's the head coach at T.C. Williams High School. And next to him is Coach Herman Boone, former T.C. Williams High School football coach, who in 1971, went on to win a state championship after the schools were merged, right, Coach?
Right.
Thank you for taking the time. I mean, I know y'all are very, very busy, but we really appreciate you coming in here to talk with me. And we're going to talk about the event that is happening on December 1st. And Ivan, I see you, constantly looking at that poster. It's the Earl Lloyd dedication, and it's a tip-off classic where all the four schools in the city of Alexandria, will come together and, play a series of basketball games. So, Ivan, I'll start with you. We have the Earl Lloyd dedication, which is the dedication of the floor of the gymnasium at T.C. Williams High School, and then we have the basketball games. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, it's a historic event. I think I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Lloyd last year when he came in town, and he came and spoke to our team. And the brief moment that I, met him and he talked to him, it just felt like it was a conversation. It wasn't like it was talking to a superstar or anything. He came and grabbed me by my neck. He was like, "Listen, just make sure they get it done tonight. Make sure they get it done tonight." He was very down to earth. He was just, and it felt good. It felt like I was talking with my uncle or my grandfather, something like that. But what it means is, I think, I always say that my young people need to connect with history, and right now they got a living legend that's still here, and he paved the way for them in terms of the ability to be playing in this beautiful facility, and for us to name the floor after him and then be witness to it while he's still alive is something special. I think that they will remember. I know I will remember for the rest of my life.
Now, Coach Boone, you coached at TC starting in '71, and 21 years prior to that, Earl was actually the first African American to play, in a game in the NBA, and you being the first, black coach at TC Williams High School, tell me your thoughts on this actual event that's going to be happening on December 1st.
Well, I'm extremely proud to, first of all, be in the presence of these gentlemen who are very instrumental in producing this occasion. I'm extremely proud to be a part of the Earl Lloyd legacy, and I'm just proud that I can be a part of the dedication to Earl, this particular gym floor. It's a fantastic facility, and it probably just could not have been dedicated to a better person than Earl Lloyd. We are very fortunate to have Earl Lloyd from this city to come back as one of the few superstars that we've had to come through this city, although we've had some very young kids to represent us very well. And excuse me, my voice is getting bad. But Earl is a historic individual. He's a part of the furniture of Alexandria, and it's his home on the banks of the Alexandria, and I'm just ecstatic just to be a part of it.
And Melvin, we've talked several times. Tell the viewing audience, what your thoughts are on this event.
Quite frankly, I think it's a great idea. I think when we first came up with the idea and went to the school board to get them to name it, I could think of nothing else better to do. I've known Earl for quite some time, although I wasn't here when he played. I felt his wrath when I was in college because they came and wiped up the floor with us. But Earl is such a humble guy, and he loves this city. He loves the people. He gives credit all the time to what he's accomplished, to people here in Alexandria who helped raise him and nurture him and get him where he is. And I don't think you can find a person that would find any objection to this honor. And I think it's great because it's going to keep some history alive. We're slowly losing most of the history. A lot of folks don't even remember Parker Gray or Earl Lloyd, but we need to keep doing things like this so that legacy will live on.
So speaking of history and legacy, you talked about Parker Gray, and the boys basketball team is supposed to play in Parker Gray uniforms. Correct.
I think that was a big part. I think it got leaked out somehow, but that was going to be a surprise. But they are going to play in
No more.
And Parker Gray.
Oops! Excuse us.
They are going to play in Parker Gray uniforms. And again, like Mr. Miller was mentioning, it's important that you somehow link the past to now, because so many times, I guess, we take for granted, even myself being young, that you kind of forget that there was something that came before you that made this how it is now. And I like to say easier than how it was now. Yeah, young people today, and we have our own difficulties that we still fight through and fight, but it's nothing like they had to endure. And so, because if you don't remember, then you're destined to repeat the past. And slowly but surely, and if we do not, make sure that they understand the magnitude of how it was, even though how it is great now. But, I just think it's a big part, and I can't wait till those guys, if you know me, those guys know they'll get a lecture from me when they put those jerseys on their back in terms of, what this means. It's not just a new jersey, not just, a jersey. We're doing something to celebrate something, as well as hopefully we're going to go out there and play hard and play how we typically play, but we're going to play with a different level of passion that night with those jerseys on our back.
And Coach Boone, you had a hand in the acquiring of the jerseys?
He wants you to ask me that.
Let's put. I mean, look. I guess you look at the way you're looking at me. You purchased them. You had a hand in it. What was your role in this?
Well, I'd rather for Mel Millen to talk about that. I do things pretty quietly.
Okay.
And but what I do is from the heart and not the head. And if anyone, I don't wish to talk about it. Mel can talk about it if he wishes to.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
Mel, look, I mean, Coach Boone just said Mel knows.
Well, yeah, because when we came up with the idea of playing in Parker Gray uniforms, which we thought would add something, and quite frankly, I talked to Coach Thomas and Athletic Director Donnelly, and the idea is that they will play in those uniforms the first game each year, so that you'll constantly be before them. But of course, we had the problem of figuring out, obviously the school system wasn't going to buy the Parker Gray uniforms, so I approached my good friend Coach Boone and told him what we were doing. He was very excited about it, and he said if it helps carry on some tradition or something, that I think at first he said he'd come up with half of it, but then we got a price that I could get all of it for the half price, because he made the mistake of telling me how much he'd come up with.
Oh, Jesus.
It's out there, Coach.
But I know that Herman doesn't like for these kinds of things to get out there that he does, because he does a lot for this community, a lot for people in this community. But I just think folks need to know some things, because there are some people that need to follow his example, because we need it.
Mm-hmm. Well, giving is giving, and the recipients are, should, and I'm sure they will be appreciative. And Coach, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but inquiring minds wanted to know, and we just had to make sure that it was out there as to how this happened, because a lot of people like to take credit for things, and I'm pretty sure you would not mind that, but we like to make sure that the right credit and the proper credit is given to the proper people and the proper person. So, I hope you don't mind, me actually quizzing you or putting you on the spot.
I'm more concerned about not who gives up of themselves, but I'm concerned about our children think that our heroes were born old. And consequently, they don't seem to pay attention to history beyond yesterday. And it is something that many of us who were of that day, we wish that these days that made our young children what they are today, that our young children should be proud of the history that was brought forth by guys like Earl Lloyd and even Mel Miller here in this city. The contributions, we need to hold on to history. We need to hold on to contributions that many of our people, and particularly our African American people, have done, because our African American history has been so distorted over the years and so much lack of over the years that we've got to hold on to whatever is done in our city. And there's been a tremendous amount of African American contribution in this city, but our young people can't begin to tell you one sentence about Earl Lloyd, a man born here on the banks of Alexandria during the days of distorted history, during the days of segregation, and who fought through all of those adversities and still lives on by his principles and his beliefs. And we want to pass these things on. And this was my involvement, whether this can be passed on to our children who think we're born old.
Well,
And I can say one
yeah.
thing,
Go ahead.
with those jerseys, there will definitely be, year after year, if nothing else, his purpose will be served. The first game of every year, we will put those jerseys on. And so the varsity kids that happen to play for Coach Thomas under my time here will definitely understand the magnitude of what these jerseys mean. And I can concur greatly. I think, that's a big problem. If a lot of, especially our African-American males, understand where they came from and who they are, then they will be more sure of themselves and more confident of themselves and less likely to, not to dummy down and not to want to fit in and do some of the things that, most people think they should be doing. And so he's correct in the sense that just knowing who you are is important. And it's important to me because I know my parents always stressed that to me, that somewhat you're carrying a torch. So these jerseys is like a reminder of that, that you need to carry that same torch that was lit before.
So, does this transition from a Earl Lloyd dedication to more of a Parker Gray honoring, and then years to come, if they're going to play in Parker Gray uniforms, how does that continue to preserve the legacy that Earl Lloyd has lived?
Well, I think it does both. Well, if you putting on the uniform, you're gonna honor Earl Lloyd's legacy, because that's every day when we play on that home floor, you're gonna see Earl Lloyd's court. That's gonna be the title of it on both sides. So they're gonna see that. I think it preserves it. It just serves as a reminder. So many of our kids just need that reminder. What is this that I have on? And they will get that reminder from that jersey that, somebody came before you. That we're honoring, that time in Alexandria when things were not equal or we were separated in a sense.
No, they were not equal at all.
And so,
right. Let's not put it out there that things were somewhat not equal. No, when Earl came through back in the day, things were separate. They were definitely not equal. Segregation was rearing its ugly head to the max.
It was alive and well. And so you got to remember, a lot of the kids that we're dealing with are 15 and 16 years old who've never lived through that. And that's what it's about. Just because you haven't lived through it, you have people like Mr. Miller and Coach Boone who have. And so I know I spend time talking to Mr. Miller, and he just showed a lot of wealth with me and information, and I don't think our kids get that enough. So what I'm saying is these jerseys, if nothing else, will strike up that conversation every year at the beginning of the year with their friends. The kids will come in and say, why y'all wearing Parker Gray? And hopefully our kids will be able to explain to them why we're wearing Parker Gray, what it meant. And so if nothing else, it serves his purpose long after he's, here and gone, that every year, as long as I'm here, we will be wearing those the first game of the season. If nothing else, to strike up the conversation.
Okay. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, I think you talk about trying to differentiate between Earl and the Parker Gray legacy. I think if you ever talk to Earl, the two are the same. And I think if you talk to folks from Parker Gray, it's hard to talk to anybody that was connected with Parker Gray that Earl Lloyd's name doesn't come up. I mean, he was just that kind of person. I didn't have the pleasure of being in the city when he was in high school, but I know I did have some involvement with Parker Gray. And even to today, folks still think of Earl Lloyd and Parker Gray as almost being synonymous. There were a lot of great athletes that came through Parker Gray. Earl probably stands out, although he will tell you that there were a couple of others that ought to stand out. But he accomplished some things, and I think the mere fact that the Parker Gray uniform and the Earl Lloyd on that court every year will generate something, as I've said before, hopefully that folks will at least ask the question, what was Parker Gray, who was Earl Lloyd? And hopefully there will be folks there to tell them what it was, and that'll carry on that legacy.
Well, we had talked on some previous shows about maybe something being put outside in front of the gym to basically, give a little more information than just the floor being there, so that kids, as they walk into the gym or as they're in the foyer area, can read about Earl Lloyd and Parker Gray, as well as, see the floor and not have to look for someone to ask a question to, because it's already out there.
Yeah, and we've taken that up. I've talked to some of the folks that are interested in it, and I guess the biggest issue, as I've said on the show before, is
Cost.
we got to
Right.
get some money together to do that. I don't think there will be a problem whatsoever getting it placed there if we can just figure out how we pay for it and put something out there that's meaningful.
So what are your thoughts? I mean, possibly just hearing this for the first time. What are your thoughts, Coach?
Well,
it isn't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh.
Coach Boone.
age before beauty.
A lower handicap.
It sort of bothers me sometimes that certain things in this city are not represented by their image. I truly believe that not only should there be a bust of Earl Lloyd, a bust, I guess, outside of that gym when you walk into that gym. The same as I truly believe, and I've taken this through to some people here in this city, that, to pass by T.C. Williams High School, you won't know it's T.C. Williams High School unless you strain your eyes to look up to see, the writing up there that you can't read if you're doing 30 miles an hour. But if you had a big Titan out front, with his sword, this is the home of T.C. Williams High School. Then when you get inside, this is the home of Earl Lloyd. I think that type of tribute to not only the school, but to Earl Lloyd will be more than appropriate when you walk in and see something that will make you proud to walk in that gym to see the name of that person outside that warranted not only that bus, but that floor.
I totally agree, and it's not the first time I've heard it. I mean, I've spoken, like I said, I've had conversations with Mr. Miller in the past about it, and like he said, we and I support it 100%, and he has my full support. It's just a matter of, and he's more familiar with that in terms of how to get the funding and what's the holdbacks and things of that nature. So I agree wholeheartedly that there needs to be more in the gym to remember not only Titans, but people who came before the Titans. All
right, and we have Parker Gray, which is no longer actually, the physical structure is not there. And if you go where Parker Gray was, you don't even see anything. You don't see anything that said, Parker Gray, stood here. And or what have you. And even when you go around the city of Alexandria, you don't see any reminders or anything that designates that there was even anything as far as the black culture, as far as what went on, you know, back then, whether it was the Pendleton Street Boys Club, whether it was the movie theater that you know the blacks could only go to that was moved twice, whether it was the old Hopkins house, whether it was you know I mean, just so many different things in the city.
I can't comment on it because I just got it, but I will make this statement in terms of where it was. I mean, in terms of the answer.
No, you can't comment on it because we're talking about our history.
Right.
Regardless of if you were here, we're still talking about history, we're talking about our culture, we're talking about it being exterminated.
I understand.
Okay.
The other day, Tuesday, I was giving one of my coaches an interview, and I was explaining, you know, he was asking about the Remember the Titans. He was so in awe right in the front. And I was explaining, he was like, oh yeah, the movie. And it was during parent night, and this parent overheard me talking, and it happened to be a Caucasian parent who walked by, and she said, "Yeah, Parker Gray. I lived in the city all my life, and it was it was a kept secret. I didn't even know it existed." Mm-hmm. And so, at that moment, you know how you have a realization that's how it probably was. It wanted to keep it a secret. Mm-hmm. You know, for the people to dominate, and that's the only example that I have.
Speaking of history, the gentleman that sits right next to you, Coach Boone, you know, people actually fought and sat and refused to leave buildings so that, you know, a black coach would be hired at T.C. Williams High School. Right. And Coach Boone was actually the person who was hired. And I mean, and you being, you know, the current, you know, T.C. Williams coach, I mean, you're the beneficiary of what the gentleman that's sitting right next to you had to go through. And I know he's a humble individual, but we know back in '71 it wasn't easy. You know, and it's more than just a movie. It's actually a life's experience and what you go through, you know, in life.
You know, there's another very interesting thing that's taking place in the city right now. As you know, they've torn down the Charles Houston Rec Center.
Boulders, and that's all it is.
Well, and the interesting thing about it was that the original Parker Gray was on that site before the Charles Houston that they tore down was there.
Okay.
That's where the original
I didn't know that.
Parker Gray School was, yeah. And then it became Charles Houston. They moved Parker Gray High School over to Madison Street, which is now a bunch of townhouses. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting that we've gone through that cycle, and you're correct. The only two things I know of in the city that even say Parker Gray are parts of Wythe Street down there. They have put underneath on the sign Parker Gray Way, but I'm sure nobody knows what that means. And also, oddly enough, the stadium at the football field, T.C. Williams, is actually called Parker Gray Stadium.
No, plus the Board of Architectural Review, they have the Parker Gray District, but nobody really,
but
you know,
that's more of a detriment than...
Right, well, because there was a time where blacks couldn't even go past a certain point in Alexandria.
Yes, yes.
And I mean, it's just, and the jerseys, you know, like you said, this will pique the interest, hopefully, of our young kids to ask questions, because there's a lot of history out here as far as their culture is concerned that needs to be talked about openly, candidly, and frankly.
And I think when Earl gets here, and obviously he's going to talk to the kids at the school as well as other things and talking to folks in the community, we're going to have the reception along with Hoop Academy out at the departmental club the night before, and you'll hear a lot about it, and you'll see a lot of people come out that many of whom will remember all of it, many of whom will be hearing it for the first time. But it's very hard not to sit and listen to Earl Lloyd talk about his days in Alexandria and not really remember it after that, because I know it's stuck with me, and every time I hear him talk about it. And I see him at CIAA when he was inducted into the CIAA Hall of Fame. Most of his speech was about coming up in Alexandria and the people that helped nurture him in Alexandria.
You know, I must tell you this, that, you know, people like you know, sometimes maybe our generation got tired and the torch was been set down for rest on the floor. But it's up to you, people like you, to pick up that torch. And I've often wondered, why is it that programs and companies like your program here, Camcast, does not, in between programs, flash? Did you know that in certain years, T.C. Williams High School was named after probably the biggest racist in the world? Did you know that Earl Lloyd, little spots in between commercials, 10-second spots. Did you know that Earl Lloyd was born in this house? Boom. Did you know that Earl Lloyd played for Fort Wayne Pistons? Did you know that Earl Lloyd played for Detroit Pistons? Did you know that Keith Burns, coach for the
Denver Broncos.
Denver Broncos, lived here? Did you know that Bill Ewell, the mayor of Alexandria, once the Confederate city of the South, was born here and lived here? You can do a tremendous amount by giving these 10 seconds or producing them. These 10-second spots about African-American history all over the city. Did you know Ferdinand Day, the first black school board member, lived here? Did you know? I guess.
Did you know Melvin Miller was a
Did you know
school
Melvin
boy?
Miller was one of the terrible seven?
Right. Exactly.
Secrets.
No, but
Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I do understand. And the hat I'm wearing is Hoop Academy, and that's what we strive to do. We strive to inform. Thus the reason why we bring on the coach Herman Boone's, the coach Ivan Thomas's, the Melvin Millers, the Horace Burtons, the Eggy Burts, and to make sure that our history is not exterminated. Make sure our culture, continues on, and people know, and like I said, understand what went on and how we moved, and progressed to this day.
But you got to do more of it.
Okay.
You got to keep the history of this city and including African American history in the minds and in the souls of our young people. And I've often wanted the opportunity to tell you guys this. You can produce that in-between spot. Did you know? And I think it will be important that, once our kids see this, then it will be ingrained in their heads that did you know that this was the home of Ferdinand Day? This was the home of Keith Burns, for an example. Just a 10-second spot that will be ingrained into our children's head like lessons of the day.
That's a good point, Coach. That is a very good point. And on that, that's basically going to be the last thing that they hear on this show, because we're out of time. But December 1st is the event, the floor dedication and the tip-off.
And November 30th.
And November 30th is go ahead. You want
November 30th is the reception at the Departmental Progressive Club at 7:30 that evening. It's open to anyone who will come, and Earl will be there, and they'll get a chance to meet with him, listen to him, and listen to some of the guys he played with tell the real stories about Earl Lloyd.
I hear you. Well, thank you, Melvin. Thank you, Coach Ivan, and thank you, Coach Herman Boone, for taking your time to sit here on Hoop Academy Project. I'd like to thank the viewers for watching another edition of Hoop Academy Project. I'm Derek Limas, and take care and keep watching.
Yeah, can't let nobody hold you down, baby. Life is what you make it. You gotta put in hard work. Yeah, can't let nobody hold you down, baby.